Welcome to Staples Center. Joe Morgan here with Sporting News. Sabrina Merchant, special guest Jovan Buha from The Athletic. An interesting first game of the homestand here at Staples Center. Pistons come in. Clippers give up 63 in the first half, actually, which we can talk about, but they end up winning 126-112. They go to 25-11 on the year. First of a four-game homestand here at home. Obviously an important win to get here, but I have to say, overall, not that much happened here in this game, except for a few things like Paul George getting injured. But did you guys pull anything from this? Maybe in the first half, defensively, anything?
Interesting is not the word I would use to describe it, not even close. I mean, I think just about the biggest takeaway is that the Clippers didn't particularly care about this game.
No.
And you could tell from the way they didn't play on defense in the entire first half. And it's kind of strange because when Blake Griffin came here last year, it was like the biggest game of the year. It's so much buzz, and you kind of forgot Blake was even on the bench today, other than this week we want Blake chant at the end of the fourth quarter from the Clipper fans that were remaining for this game. But yeah, not a lot to take away, just a disinterested effort that got the win.
Jovan, did you pick anything from this?
I don't know who was less interested in this game, us or the Clippers. I mean, I would say in like the macro sense, it's not really encouraging to give up 112 points to this team without Blake. And not only just the 112 points, but the way they did it, it was 9 guys in double figures, 9 of the 11 guys that played. So I think the one thing with this team that continues to be a trend is just they can never seem to put it together on both ends. It's always one or the other, where the offense is struggling, they're getting like 15 to 20 turnovers, not shooting the ball well, or defensively they just can't stop anybody no matter how bad the opposition is. Tonight, clearly, 126, they got it going offensively, but defensively, this probably should have been a 25-point win, held them to, 100 points or less, really. So I think, I guess there's the element of like they weren't that interested, so maybe you're not too concerned, but I feel like this team, has not had the same type of attitude that they've had last season. It was something I wrote about like a couple weeks ago when they lost in OKC. I talked to some guys after the game, and they're like, we're kind of struggling with our identity right now because last year we were this underdog team, and that kind of fit most of the locker room. But right now, we're the favorites in most matchups. We go into most nights being favored to win, and that kind of works for Kawhi and PG because those guys are superstars. They've been established for multiple years, but for the Pat Beverleys, for the Jermichael Greens, the Montrezl Harrells, those guys are kind of used to that underdog type of ethos and mentality. So I think you've kind of seen that at times with this team where they don't necessarily have the same hunger that they did last season.
I would agree with that completely. And I guess, Sabrina, this is a question for you. Just at end of games, generally what we've seen from championship-level basketball teams is you do put that game away. And what Jovan kind of harped on there is we have seen this, especially in the fourth quarter, where you give up these really big leads. And look, I know it's not that big of a deal in the macro, if you will, but that game was over. I think it was 31 at one point in the fourth, and it got it got to 10 or 8 there at one point.
It got to 10 with like 2 minutes left.
It got to 10. Right. Is that concerning for you, Sabrina?
Not really, only because I don't think the Pistons were ever a real threat to win this game. And, I mean, you saw this with the Lakers last night against Phoenix. It's just, when you get big leads, they just tend to whittle away sometimes when you lose focus. And that isn't as concerning to me as some of the things I saw earlier in the game. Like, so we have Landry Shamet in the starting lineup in place of Patrick Beverley, and I know the Clippers hyped him up as his point guard skills that he worked on during the offseason. I just haven't seen that from him yet. I know the Clippers scored 126 points. I don't think they played particularly well offensively, even for large stretches of that game. They just happened to capitalize on the fact that Detroit didn't have anything going.
It's not that good.
Yeah, it's just not that good.
You talk about Landry playing point, and this is something that we're now starting to have a conversation about with the Clippers, is do you actually need somebody? You have to bring somebody in, and obviously Darren Collison has been part of this conversation. I think the bigger need for me is down low. That's just what I don't think Collison is actually the right fit here, but the two of you think that that's something they need to focus on moving forward in order to be a championship team, or even take that maybe even one more step and get a little bit better?
I just think they literally need another big body. If you look at the roster, the only guy that's above 6'9" on this team is Ivica Zubac, and you saw it the other night where was it?
Trez sat out against Utah.
It was Utah. Okay, I was mixing up Utah and Sacramento, but you saw it against Utah where when Trez sits out, I mean, now you're going to Jermichael Green at the 5, which I think can work in doses. They used it last year in the postseason. Or Patrick Patterson at the 5. We even saw that a little bit. and then it's kind of slim pickings at that point. And I think if you look at the top teams in the league, the teams that this team might face in May and June, it's the Lakers, the Bucks, the Sixers. Maybe the Celtics and Raptors. Those teams go a little bit smaller, but like for those three teams in particular, you need size out there.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do in terms of potentially adding another big man and how Ivica Zubac's role changes, because he really is, again, really like the only true big man on this team. And I think moving forward, especially in those types of matchups, he's going to have to play more. He might even have to close games in certain matchups, and we have not really seen that yet. So it's something that the team isn't really accustomed to. They're accustomed to Trez closing games, but we saw it in the Sacramento game. Doc went with Zoo at the end because he didn't like the way Trez was playing. So maybe that's a trend that will continue down the road. But I think to Joe's point, I agree that the big man position probably is slightly more of a need. Now, point guard, I think if they could somehow get like a Drew Holiday or like I know it's like ambitious, but like someone who's like a name that could like replace Pat Beverly in the starting line. Like Darren Collison, if you're bringing him in, he's the 10th man. He's playing with the second unit, probably taking Rodney McGruder's minutes, and it's not really moving the needle that much. If you could get I know Drew Holiday is probably the high end of that, but some type of point guard who's better than Pat Beverly basically and moves him to the bench, I think you try to do that. Otherwise, you're probably stuck with what you have.
I would agree. Sabrina?
I'm trying to think of what names fit that bill other than Drew Holiday, like DJ Augustin. Is he better than Pat Beverly?
I think to Yovan's point, you're basically just bringing a guy who's a 9th or a 10th man. And I'm not sure how much of an impact that's going to make, and that's why I think you need to focus on getting another big as opposed to having a point guard to come off the bench and be the 9th or 10th guy.
The position I've written about that I think would be nice, like maybe Andre Iguodala, and I know he's been the name that's floated out there, but he's someone who can, handle the ball, set other guys up, is just another like secondary playmaker. I think a couple other guys that I like are Robert Covington. Minnesota's willing to sell him. Bogdan Bogdanovic in Sacramento, he's going to be a free agent. They might not want to pay him.
Good ball handler too.
Though then you might have to pay him. And then Marcus Morris. Like I think for the Clippers, if you are going in with like, we have our closing four. We have Kawhi, PG, Lou, and Trez. Those are the four guys we're always closing with pretty much every night. That fifth spot has kind of been rotating. It's been usually been Pat Beverly, sometimes Landry Shamet. Mo Harkless has played there, JaMychal Green. I think if you could solidify that fifth spot, which any of those four names I just mentioned could slide in there, you probably want a little more size there than a Pat Beverly or Landry Shamet, because Lou and Trez are defensive liabilities, and they're both small at their position. So I think that would kind of be another position, is maybe another wing that's an upgrade on Mo Harkless, an upgrade on Rodney McGruder, that you can kind of close games with.
You agree with this, Sabrina?
That's about right. It's more interesting than anything Detroit games today.
This was a game that was, quite frankly, a little bit difficult to watch. But we will be back here on Saturday for Memphis. John Morant's in town, so that's going to be pretty exciting. And then Sunday against the wonderful Knicks, so that should be fun to watch as well.
Brutal weekend.
It's a heck of a homestand here at Staples Center. But once again, Clippers do find a way to win. 126-112. They go to 25-11. Thanks to guys, Joe Morgan, Sabrina Merchant, Jovan Buha stepping in here for a guest appearance. We appreciate it, and we'll see you guys on Saturday.